tea time. Welcome everybody, Souldin of the Grin brothers here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time. And today's tea time is a whole day later, because about a few minutes passed and it went from Saturday to Sunday, as I'm recording this, because this tea I've got here with me, the Pucker brand elderberry and echinacea, whatever the heck it is, with elderflower, a rich organic embrace tingling with fruity warmth, is a tea that, according to the back of it, takes 15 minutes to boil. It takes a very long time to boil, and I've had a long time to wait for it. There's also a little bit extra to it. Let's see. Good news for comforting and pre-parking. Pre-laxing. I taught it's the summary here is where I have to tear it open to get to the tea. Preparing, I think, you for life's ups and downs. Okay, so good news for comforting and preparing for you for life's ups and downs. That's the elderberry and echinacea with elderflower tea. You'll see what it actually is on the screen now. In any case, today's tea time, as some of you may know, me and Rafi got a SNES Mini recently. We may or may not have uploaded some of the minis that we've recorded of it. We may have also mentioned in our Project Zero playthrough that we're currently doing. In any case, we've got a SNES Mini, and so I feel like this is a good time to talk about the SNES. So here is Souldin SNES Memories, or Souldin SNES. Yeah, Souldin SNES something, Souldin Superplay. Yeah, Souldin Superplay. It was the UK magazine for the SNES, even though I was a bit too young to ever get into it, you know. By the time I was playing the SNES, it was like 1996. The N64 had come out and most SNES support had mostly dropped, with exception to one very particular game coming around that time. Of course, I didn't know the difference. Again, I was really young. I guess some of the first things to address with the Souldin SNES or Souldin Superplay, whatever I decided to call this, is over in the UK we call it SNES, because it's really easy and makes a lot of sense. Whereas some people may know it as the SNES, which is kind of impractical, you know, spelling out each letter. You know, like, you don't always go NES, you go NES. It's much quicker. It's much simpler. It gets the same point across, but you're not having to spell out, pronounce each letter. Although, it is, of course, SNES is a lot better than Super NES, which is just outright bonkers. Why would you call it Super NES? SNES is what I call it because it makes the most sense, and it's kind of what everyone in Britain tends to refer to it as. Also, I guess the second thing to address, and something I will have to admit, of course, I was gaming in my earlier days with the SNES, Mega Drive, and my Amiga 1200, as along with the Game Boy. I never delved greatly into either of their libraries as a result. However, the Mega Drive has had the benefit of, being in the UK, the Sega systems were more popular. More games were available, I've had more experience with said games, and Sega have done more collections in physical form, whereas Nintendo's later releases of SNES games have been exclusively to the Virtual Consoles until the SNES Mini. So I will admit, I am more of a Mega Drive boy, a Genesis for you Americans, than I am a SNES boy. The Mega Drive had more games in my childhood, with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Ristar, Streets of Rage series. And some of you may be pointing out, but wait, the SNES had amazing RPGs. And what about fighting games? Well, speaking about the fighting games first matter, well, I'd gone to fighting games with Tekken, and that was on the PlayStation. I didn't really play many to any fighting games on the older systems. Okay, some people are going to be saying, oh, Streets of Rage. No, Streets of Rage is a beat-em-up, not a fighting game. There's a difference in genre. For some reason, some people keep listing it as fighting, but no, it's beat-em-up. Entirely different. But the only fighting game I played prior to Tekken was a Power Rangers fighting game. Yeah, I never grew up with the likes of Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. For me, fighting games started with Tekken, and that's why I have such a hard time going back to play these 6-button fighters, because they make no sense to me. The other thing is, what about the RPGs on the SNES? Those would have surely hooked you over the Mega Drives. Ha ha ha! The UK and RPGs. Believe it or not, in the UK, the Mega Drive had more RPGs than the SNES. Yes, it's hard to believe, but almost none of the SNES RPGs ever got localized, at least any of the turn-based ones. I think it was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, that god-awful Final Fantasy game they tried to make for newbies. That was the only Final Fantasy game we got for the SNES. Like all three of the all of the RPGs, with exception to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, on the SNES Mini, the UK never got any of those. The Mega Drive, with its like Shadowrun game and the Phantasy Star games, and a couple others, had more RPGs on it than the SNES over here. It's insane to think about, given how the SNES is held up in regions like America because of its great collection of RPGs, but they're non-existent over here. There's a completely different climate, and the Mega Drive has such a big advantage over the SNES over here because there was a lot of developers who made their games on the Mega Drive because it was close to the microcomputers and such they were working on, and due to the fact that we didn't get a lot of the more text-heavy games that were still managed to get released in America. In any case, a part of my sort of emphasis with this is to talk again about my memories of the SNES. I remember the day that I actually first saw the SNES. It was actually Kiris's birthday. I was about, 3 or 4 at the time? It's weird that I can remember this so clearly. I remember going downstairs, and I remember him starting to open it up, and he's like, we ended up sort of rushing over, because I'm sure seeing him from the stairway, managing to open it up. And he opened it up, the SNES, and there were 2 games of it. Super Mario All-Stars with Super Mario World, the best version of the cartridge, along with Kirby's Fun Pack. And Super Mario World All-Stars was specifically the Super Mario World. Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. Super Mario World was the first game I played on the SNES. It wasn't the first game I ever played. Those were on the Amiga. And I played a Mario game before with the Game Boy with Super Mario 2, the 6 golden coins. But yeah, the SNES, that was my first experience with the SNES. Immediately, it's probably why Super Mario World still holds a good place in my heart, but the SNES controller I loved to bits. Like, it's one of my favourite controllers, although again, as I said, I prefer the Mega Drive games that I was able to play. For the most part, there is of course one huge exception, but the controller-wise, the SNES was my favourite controllers, and even to today, I'd probably have it top 5 or top 6. It is easily one of my best. That's maybe a tea time for another time, talking about my favourite video game controllers. But I really love the design. The SNES over here has an absolutely wonderful design, as it does in Japan as a Super Famicom. Unlike the Americans, you've got the most ghastly design ever. I love the buttons, the multicoloured buttons, which again, we got over here, unlike the Americans. Honestly, the Americans really, got unlucky with the SNES. It's such an inferior system over there in terms of design and such. I mean, yeah, okay, we missed out all the games, which, over here, which, again, in the end is the more important factor. But we have the nicer design. That's what you should take. That's truly the most important part. But yeah, we don't actually own that many games. Again, for the SNES. Again, as I said, in the UK, it was so much easier to find Mega Drive games. I remember there was a Mega Drive store downtown where I could buy the games easily enough. Didn't buy many of them. Again, I was 4 to 6 around the time I was still purchasing it. And eventually it got taken over by a florist now. But I'm going to grab my games one by one. Maybe talk about the SNES Mini a bit as well. No, the first one I conveniently grabbed is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which, until The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, remained as my all-time favourite Legend of Zelda game. I absolutely adore this game to bits. Its opening sequence is one of the most memorable things I played back in the day, and as a child, I only really got up to the first 3 dungeons, but, I got to the Master Sword. That was a pretty impressive thing for me as a child, given I was usually flicking back and forth between a lot of games. But yeah, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, I love so much about it. It was a great game to... Again, I did get to play some of the key games, even if I didn't get to play many games on the SNES. And gosh, I do love the cartridge. It's got such a nice feel to it. And a nice rattling sound. Yeah, really like... I've still got my £6 sticker on this Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past cartridge. Yeah, we got this for £6. I love this little rim it's got. This little rim in the middle. I think that's where it sort of like hooks in a bit, and then when you press the eject button, it goes boom! And just pops out. Oh gosh, the SNES's ejection button was one of the best things ever. Again, comment if you agree. I love that ejection button. And over here, this game... Oh wait, we've got 2 Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past? I'm not sure which is the one of my father's on. The thing is, my nan also had a SNES. And there are a few games that she had exclusively of her house. She got rid of it now. Well, I believe we've got it here somewhere. So we've got 2 SNESes now, along with the SNES Mini. But there was a few games she happened to have extras of. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, she happened to have her own version. So we've got 2 Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Another game she had over at her house that she bought for us to play is Donkey Kong Country. Really fun, tons of fun to play with Rafi on. You know, nice little co-op game, even though you have to take turns with it. Pretty sure you have to take turns with that one. But yeah, it's really cool, really nice. Me and Rafi had a lot of fun times going to Nan's house to play this together because we didn't have our usual SNES games over there as a result. So whenever we popped round, usually after school, and we had more time than we expected after chatting with Nan and Grandad, this is usually the game that we'd end up playing together a lot. Lots of fun with that. And hey, me and Rafi, the Donkey Kong Country thing, despite we never played any of the later Donkey Kong Country games, we did end up getting into Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. In fact, fun fact, Donkey Kong Country Returns was the motivation for starting the Grin Brothers channel. And that's the reason why Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was the very first playthrough we attempted to start. It went terribly wrong due to the recording method we did, but we attempted it. Another game, I didn't play much of this, and honestly, I don't think it's that great. I think the Mega Drive, some people say, is a better version. But it's one that I've, played bits of, and it's really weird to see Sony having made a game on the SNES, on a Nintendo system. But I've got a copy of Mickey Mania here. It was fun to play around with from time to time, although I do keep forgetting how some of the things work. Now, you'll end up finding out in my SNES Mini playthrough, I have a slightly different opinion of it. I feel that it's not aged as well as I remember it. But certainly one of my favourite styles of gaming. You can tell this is Kiris's copy of it. He's got his initials on the back twice, just to make sure clear everyone knows what game that he owns this game, and that is Super Mario Kart. One of my favourite Mario Kart games. I would have initially said it was my favourite, but again, it hasn't aged as well as I thought in terms of the drifting mechanics and such. But it's still a game I absolutely love to bits. I'd play this over and over and over and over and over again. Originally, I used to play as Luigi, but after Super Mario Kart 64, I ended up sticking with Koopa Trooper, given the lack of Koopa Trooper in Super Mario Kart 64. So that's a little fun fact for you. It's just like in retrospect, I ended up choosing Koopa Trooper solely because of that reason he was excluded. And this game brings back a memories in how gosh darn hard it is. Also, for some reason, we wrote as P on it for some reason, even though none of our initials are P. I'm a big fan of Kirby, as you know, and the SNES happened to have one of the strangest Kirby games on it, Kirby Dream Course. There's just something really odd about this game. It's a Kirby golf game where you use Kirby as the golf ball, but he's kind of like a pinball. It's a little bit weird. Okay, it's super weird, but it's a lot of fun and brutal as heck. I could never get very far in the story mode because it was just so cruel. I never got to King Dedede. I've heard that part just goes insane with the difficulty, but I could never get that far. I think second world was the furthest I got through the second world, and first level of the third world I was like almost dead instantly. It's such a hard game, but really fun. It's one of the best games multiplayer, as a lot of people may realise from the Game Grumps playthrough of Kirby's Dream Course. Such a cool game. I love the little cover arts for the SNES, how well they go across the sort of cartridge. Again, the cartridge is just a fantastic design. And particularly I love with the Kirby games, it's got such a nice pink part to it. It's again such a subtle thing, but it's a real nice sort of it helps everything pop out quite a bit. Now then, I've got 5 more games. I'm not going to get time to really cover the SNES Mini much, am I? I'm going to try this tea out actually a little bit early. I'm going to try out this tea. Pop up the name here. I couldn't remember it, so let's try this out. It's brewed for 15 minutes. I hope it's blooming good. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, it gets worse. Oh, the aftertaste is worse. No, it's troubling. Oh, it's on my tongue even more. Oh. Okay. I definitely know I don't like elderflower, because every time I've tried to taste of elderflower, I haven't liked. It's like I'd say honey, but no, more like earwax. On my tongue. The first taste wasn't as bad. It was bearable. I just didn't like it. But, gosh, it gets worse and worse and worse. I can't believe I cleaned my palate. I made sure to wait a bit, drink some water, just to try that. Gosh, no. This tea, the thing I can't pronounce, the elderberry and echidna with elderflower, rich and organic in main brie, and it certainly has a tingle to it, but it's not a fruity warmth. If it's any fruity kind, it's tropical, and not a fan of tropical. aside from Tropical Church. Those are oddly nice. In any case, oh gosh, I'm not a fan of that tea. Let's just get back to the SNES stuff. Let's fond memories destroy the taste in my mouth, such as fond memories of playing Yoshi's Island. Well, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. It's funny because today Rafi was actually playing this on the SNES Mini. I mean, it feels kind of pointless playing Yoshi's Island on the SNES Mini, given we have a cartridge of it here and a SNES under the table right over there, under the desk over there. But I guess it's certainly more convenient having it on the SNES Mini to just play. But yeah, Yoshi's Island, really fun game. Technically, yeah, I'd go admit they haven't actually surpassed it. I do enjoy Yoshi's Story, but this is the best sort of game of the Yoshi series. A lot of fun. Love the visuals. They really wanted to show off their 3D stuff. And you can tell this is where they started to boost up the SNES games a bit. Because if you look at the bottom, they've got extra chips here. Like the other ones, there's only like, there's smaller sort of chips to insert. You've got a little bit more room at the end. But no, where you could usually put your fingers into the cartridge, I don't know why you would, just poking the very bottom of it. There's actually chips now in its place. So this definitely has a lot more oomph going into it now. Here we have the very first sort of SNES game I played, the Super Mario All-Stars with Super Mario World Pack. Again, my oldest brother's initials are on this. Again, it was his birthday present. I do remember him opening it up, remember him playing it. This is where I played Mario for the first time. I didn't own an SNES, so this is where I played Mario. I played Mario for the first time on the Game Boy, but this is where I played the sort of classic Marios. I played NES Mario, with Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Lost Levels, all that. Kira's, I honestly think his favourite Mario game was actually Super Mario Brothers 2, or Super Mario Brothers US, depending on how you want to refer to it as. My favourite is Super Mario World, but in terms of overall visuals and feel, I actually would say my favourite is Super Mario Lost Levels. But of course, as a kid and even as an adult, it's so ridiculously hard. But in terms of looks, Super Mario Lost Levels is certainly my favourite, and I feel it fixes up the feeling of movement that Super Mario Bros. Had. Like, Super Mario Bros. Had awesome level designs, but I don't feel it moves as well as you may remember it moving. But Super Mario Lost Levels fixed that, but in turn, it made itself so brutally hard that it's not really worth it in the end, but love it visually. But yeah, again, this was such a great collection. And Super Mario World released on its own at the start of the SNES. And nowadays when I see its cartridge, I just feel it's kind of a rip-off compared to Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. Because I've got all the games there, including Super Mario World. It's amazing what they managed to fit all in one cartridge at the end. And this here is actually not a game I really should bother talking about, because it's not one I've got any memories of. Tetris and Dr. Mario. The reason I haven't got any memories of it is I bought this like 3 years ago on a car boot for whatever reason. I guess to say that I, saw a game that I thought was fairly obscure. Not sure if it is or not, but hey-ho, Tetris and Dr. Mario. Speaking of which, on the SNES Mini, there's a lot of cool games that I've never played. It's interesting that they've got a lot of games that we over here have never actually got in the European regions, or, well, UK is not a European region anymore, or won't be soon. But, in any case, like, for instance, you got, of course, the RPGs on here, which you'd never sort of get over here, like Final Fantasy 3, which is actually Final Fantasy 6, or Super Mario RPG, the Legend of the Seven Stars, stuff we never got over here. But, of course, the Japanese version of the SNES Mini, the Super Famicom Mini, also has its own exclusive games to it that the other versions does. It's like has a different version of Street Fighter 2, I think it has like an extra Castlevania game, but most annoyingly, for me, it has Penalty Pon on it. Now, admittedly, if they poured it over here, it would probably be Tetris Attack, because we get the American version, so it'd be with Yoshi. But there was a chance to get Penalty Pon. I love Pokemon Puzzle League, and as you may know from some of my mentions, particularly if any of you are familiar with my Super Smash Bros. Miiverse posts, I absolutely love Penalty Pon's cast of characters, namely Lip, who I've been begging to have in Smash Bros. For ages. Even though I'm not interested in Smash Bros. Anymore, but, so it's a real shame. I could have had a chance, but no, they had to spoil my dreams. As I mentioned, Nan had, going back to the cartridges, Nan had a different set of games, so we could play those without bringing our own SNES over. And so she had Super Mario World standalone. It's kind of pointless with Super Mario All-Stars, but hey-ho. And okay, as I said, I am a Mega Drive kid primarily, in that was more what I ended up playing It was, in my opinion, the better system because in the UK it just had the better selection of games. But there's one game that will, of course, make me think I'm a SNES kid all the time and always makes me think that I was a SNES kid. Primarily because this one game probably had more playtime for me than the entire Mega Drive and SNES collection library combined. Of course, it helps that this is my favourite video game ever made and has still yet to be surpassed, although some games have tried a valiant effort. That game is Kirby's Fun Pack, otherwise known as in other regions as Kirby Superstar. Kirby's Fun Pack, 8 games in 1. Kirby is my favourite video game series, and Kirby's Fun Pack is my favourite game of the Kirby series, and like I said, my favourite video game ever. I love this game to bits. I love the amount of variety that they managed to utilise, roll within the same Kirby package. I love it's co-op. It's co-op. I have 3 brothers. Co-op is one of the greatest blessings. The SNES often missed out on co-op. It doesn't have that many co-op games, particularly compared to the Mega Drive. A lot of the SNES co-op games you have to take turns with. Kirby's Fun Pack says, screw that, you've got co-op. And you've got one of the best co-op games. Well, of course, well, in my opinion, the best co-op game. The best game in everything. It's fantastic. It's platforming goodness. It is an absolutely unbeaten gem, in my opinion, and still remains comfortably as the king of all games. I love Kirby's Fun Pack, and by gosh, with a SNES Mini, with its HDMI port mini, we can plug the Hub Orgy in it. Grin Brothers, we are definitely going to play Kirby's Fun Pack at some point, because I need to show off how much I love this game. It also helps that Raffi is also insane about the game, though he probably wouldn't say that it's his number one. In any case, we adore this game. It is so good. And that's a huge reason why I love the SNES and why I keep having fond memories of it. Because even though I have a very small game library and not many of them have that big of an impact on me, it has my favourite video game of all time. So, of course, that alone makes it huge in my heart. And now to make this seem rather anticlimactic, I'm going to talk about one more game which isn't huge in my heart, but has always had a place in it because it's funny. It's called Street Racer. It's not Street Fighter, though the font is the exact same. It's Street Racer, made by Ubisoft. But Ubisoft isn't one word here. There's a space between Ubi and Soft. So it's Ubisoft, not Ubisoft, Ubisoft. And it's called Street Racer. And the font is a rip-off of Street Fighter. And the kart racing isn't exactly amazing because it's primarily a kind game. But you have less characters on the screen usually. Like for some reason I kept only racing against one person. It's so weird. It feels like a rip-off. It's somewhat good, but particularly the battle mode is a lot of fun. But not amazing good. It's very average. But the funny part is, we remember this game so much because there's a character in it who wears shades, very 80s character, 80s slick hair, sunglasses, black leather jacket. You might as well call him Captain Motorcycle, but he doesn't ride a motorcycle, so he can't be Captain Motorcycle. That character's name is Raphael. That was basically the reason we kept this game around, just because of that. Just because one of the characters was called Raphael. And so we'd always sort of say, hey Raffi, you're in the game! He was like 3 at the time. We could get away with it. Yeah, and that was Street Racer by Ubisoft. And you can tell it's quite different. It was one of the older games, because like with Super Mario World, how they do the covering's different. They've got like the SNES symbol to the left and some information there. They did it with the later releases, like the 1996, from like Yoshi's Island, which I think is 995. After Donkey Kong, with 995, they started displaying the SNES symbols a lot better, giving more room to the characters' artwork and all that, which I feel was better sort of showcasing, gave it better visual. Although the Legend of Zelda one is a pretty good size cover. But yeah, that was just some recollections of the SNES. I haven't got a huge amount of recollections because most of the memories are devoted just to Kirby's Fun Pack. I love that so much. But of course, Super Mario All-Stars had an impact, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past had an impact, Kirby's Dream Course had an impact, Donkey Kong Country had an impact, and of course, the greatest game ever, Street Racer, clearly has an impact. That for some reason stays in my mind, never going away. Just Street Racer with its rip-off font. So yeah, as I said, you know, I don't have huge memories of the SNES aside from Kirby's Fun Pack, but maybe you have more memories of the SNES, particularly if you're in America. I can easily imagine that, where it was a much bigger thing and wasn't having to fight off the other systems as to the extent as in the UK, where there was a lot of battleground between the systems. It was a lot more spread out, really. So yeah, feel free to share your thoughts below on my thoughts, as well as just sharing your thoughts in general. What are your thoughts on the SNES and the SNES games and all that? What are your thoughts on the SNES Mini? We haven't really delved too much of it on Grin Brothers. We only recorded 3 episodes so far. We will certainly do more SNES Mini stuff in future, but we probably haven't uploaded any of them yet. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tea time, and cheerio, everyone!